All right, so I'm going to assume that you've already made an attempt to try this argument on your own. I'm going to go ahead and go over the answers. So remember that this is an if-then sentence. Do you remember what this is called? You should have it in your notes. It's probably on page 1. So if you want, you could right now look at page 1 of your notes to see what I said about that. Yes, it's in a text box, right? I said never chop those in half. That's why we have all of the if-then sentence in caps. All right. So a mistake that some people make is that they cross out the if. And they do that because they think that's a premise indicator. But if is not telling us that this statement is a premise. If is telling us we have a conditional. We'd better write something down about this. So we're actually going to add to this text box. Okay, so this is still timeout for conditional statements. I'm actually going to get rid of this line here. It's okay if you have a line here. If you can't get rid of it, don't worry about it. Just add to the text box, or if you've got to go to another page, just add another text box and just put timeout for conditional statements, or you could write more timeout for conditional statements. The word if in a conditional statement should never be crossed out as excess verbiage. Okay? If, why is that? If is not a premise indicator, it is a conditional indicator. Okay. All right. So that brings me back to page 3 of your notes. All right. So let's go ahead and I'm going to have to turn this over. I apologize for not writing smaller. If you have room on the same page, go ahead and continue to write down stuff down here. If you need to turn over like me, that's fine too. So write down C, page 1, for note about eliminating if from a conditional statement. CS means conditional statement, remember that, okay? Also, oh, actually no. So then going back to page 1, I'm going to add some more text box, okay? So we're going to write also, do not eliminate a then from a conditional. It's not excess verbiage in a conditional statement, okay, to have the word then. So if there's an if X, then Y, if is not as a premise indicator, it's not excess verbiage, then is not excess verbiage. To have the conditional if X, then Y, that makes it super clear that we have a conditional. While we could have this version without the word then, this isn't the standardized version. So don't turn this into this just because you have this version, right? If anything, it would be cool for you to add the then to a conditional that is in this form. All right, so that said, let's continue on. So we've just got 2 arguments to go, and then we have to go to page 4 of our notes and start applying the other content principle and formatting rules. So this statement right here, we're not going to eliminate anything. Then we have, I have already learned about intellectual virtue during weeks 3 and 4 of this course. We don't need to get rid of anything. If you wanted to, you could get rid of already, but it's not necessary. If you did, I would be okay, but it's not in your list. This kind of word is not in your list to get rid of stuff. You're just making things concise. And while I don't really want you to focus on that, I'd be okay in this instance with this word, but it'd be better just to not do that and stick to the examples we go over. Now we've got for these reasons. Again, remember I have that as a lecture phrase on page 5. That's a conclusion indicator, so we draw a line through it. Notice, we crossed out quite a bit from argument 6, but in argument 7, we crossed out hardly anything. So again, just because I tell you to apply a principle or that you should apply everything that you've learned about clarifying arguments or marking them up and reformatting them, that doesn't mean that there's necessarily a lot to cross out or, reformat or eliminate or bracket or anything. It just depends on what is actually the core, what actually comprises the core features of a given argument's logical structure. Features. Okay, so now let's finally get into the last argument in practicing this content principle. So if I make philosophy applicable to real life, you will see, okay, we're not going to do anything to this. We remember the lessons that the things we just wrote down about the word if, right? If you see the value it has to offer, then you'll be more engaged. So again, we're not going to cross out words we shouldn't from the conditional statement. Here we've got the word so. That's a conclusion indicator, so we draw a line through it. My thinking is that if. Okay, so really the core of I'm going to do like a dashed bracket. Really, the core statement begins here. This is more like an introductory phrase. So this is another example of an introductory phrase. Some people might say that it's something else, but we're going to go ahead and say that this is an introductory phrase. So my thinking is that. So this is page 3. My thinking. Oh, hold on. We're at page 3 now, and I'm at introduction. This is a page of stuff that you get rid of. So introductory, transitional phrases, clauses, sentences. Furthermore, although my thinking, sorry about the space there. My thinking is blah, blah, blah. So there's another example. There's many more examples. We've just focused on these. All right. So now let's go ahead and go here. So we got rid of that. Look at how little we got rid of compared to some other arguments.